Before we go too far into today's program, I'd like to welcome some special guests that have joined us today, beginning with the Pasadena City Council members, Tyrone Hampton and Jason Lyon. Could you please stand? Thank you so much for everything you do for Caltech and for joining us here today. It's also my distinct pleasure to recognize an extraordinary group of special guests who were part of the first class of undergraduate women to enter Caltech in the fall of 1970. For most of them, 2024 marks the 50th anniversary of their graduation. In total, this path-breaking group included 30 women who were coming to Caltech as entering freshmen and 2 sophomore transfer students. They joined us at a time when there were very few women faculty members, no women in the higher levels of our administration, and, among other practical considerations, no locker rooms for women in the gym. Among them was Louise Kirkbride, who is a current member of the Caltech Board of Trustees. And Louise, if I could ask you and your fellow graduates of the great class of 1974 to please stand. They started something that has become really big. To date, nearly 3,000 women have earned their undergraduate degrees from the Institute. In addition, some 1,700 women have earned their doctorates here at Caltech. And also, let's not forget that about 1,500 women have undertaken postdoctoral work at Caltech just in the last 25 years. Moreover, many distinguished women are currently part of Caltech's faculty and leadership team. Graduating from Caltech is an unparalleled opportunity as well as a great challenge. To accomplish their degrees, our students push themselves and each other to levels of excellence that are very uncommon in higher education. They did this while learning at the forefront of discovery. This generation of graduates faced similar challenges to those, and also some special ones, occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, which disrupted traditional activities and transformed classroom instruction and laboratory research. For this year's undergraduates, their education began entirely online. Most of their interactions with their fellow students as well as the faculty were largely two-dimensional. Despite these unique challenges that our students, our postdocs, our faculty, and our staff faced, we continued to advance at an impressive record of breakthrough discoveries across a wide range of scientific fields. Among many successes this year, our scientists applied artificial intelligence and machine learning to improve prediction of accuracy of monsoon patterns in South Asia and to diagnose various types of cancer that were likely to metastasize. Scholars in our Division of Humanities and Social Sciences are today experimenting with generative artificial intelligence as an educational tool while also examining the ethical ramifications of this new technology. In the area of environmental sustainability, our chemist developed a catalyst for the production of polyethylene oxide, widely used in foams, plastics, and antifreeze, in this case, though, without the toxic and dangerous chemicals that had heretofore been required in its production. And to expand its quantum research, Caltech announced a multi-year partnership with Broadcom, a collaboration that will bring quantum experts together to conduct research and to seed new innovative technologies here on campus. Inclusion, diversity, and accessibility continued to be a top priority for the Institute this past year. For instance, Caltech hosted the Chemistry and Chemical Engineering Day of Inclusion, which was attended by more than 200 students, staff, postdocs, and faculty.
It was absolutely amazingly divine.
One of the most extraordinary evenings of my life. I really mean that.
Joyful, like amazing.
Usually I'm not speechless. I am speechless today.
It was absolutely riveting, beautiful. It's very nice to see a show that concentrates on the highest and the best of humanity.
My heart is fluttering because of this performance, and it's going to be with me for the rest of my life.
I've been in business for 52 years, so I have experience of knowing the difference between average, good, and beautiful. And this is magnificent.
The technique was unbelievable. I mean, the lines, the toes, the arch, and they all move as one. And that shows the heart of it.
I used to be with the Royal Ballet as a principal dancer, and it was faultless. You finish a line, it almost ripples into the next movement. I wish they'd do more of that in the Royal Ballet.
The Chinese traditional dance with the sleeves. I've actually did a dance a few years ago that incorporated the sleeves, and I know how intricate and how hard it is to work with those props.
It kind of resembled a lot within Chinese culture, like the yin and the yang. One minute they were moving very slowly and very synchronized, and all of a sudden the bodies would just spring out, and it was just incredible.
The storytelling behind it, I think, has been really powerful. It gives me goosebumps.
It's using that creative medium to also highlight values of the culture and virtues of the culture, things like discipline, humility, faithful devotion to one's spouse. And
Caltech also continued its work on our first-year Success Institute, an orientation and academic support program organized by our Center for Inclusion and Diversity. This program doubled in size over the last 2 years, and it and other efforts, many led by many of the students that are with us here today, have supported almost every individual in one way or another in achieving their full potential. Reaching beyond our planet, results from our Keck Telescope Cosmic Web Imager were the first to show direct light emitted by the largest and most hidden portions of the cosmic web, the wispy filaments that stretch across the darkest corner of space between the galaxies. And speaking of space, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which Caltech manages on behalf of NASA, successfully launched the Psyche spacecraft in a mission that will journey to a metal-rich asteroid, one of the last classes of objects to be explored in the solar system up close, and one that may reveal information about how our own solar system was formed. Meanwhile, the Europa Clipper, another JPL space vehicle, will determine whether Jupiter's icy moons have the conditions that may be suitable to support life, and this mission is expected to be launched in the coming months. And for the third time in a row, a team of Caltech undergraduates have been selected as finalists in NASA's Breakthrough Innovation and Game-Changing Idea Challenge. They proposed a novel plume-deployed inflatable component that will help carry out landings on missions to the moon. Back here on the ground, hundreds of our students participated in the Caltech WISE program to offer one-on-one tutorial to students here in Southern California area. And with the initiative of one of our very own trustees, Bill Gross, the Bill Gross Prize in Entrepreneurship was established this past year as part of a larger effort to encourage undergraduates and graduate students to develop their own business concepts. This prize was one of many new high-impact gifts that were provided by generous donations to the Institute, many of whom contributed to Caltech's initiative for student success, a fundraising campaign to support many important activities for you and for future generations of students. So graduates, as you move on from your Caltech years, I hope you will apply the many lessons that you have learned and the accomplishments that you have already achieved to address the many challenges that exist in our world. You are poised to make important contributions. Some of these may be through discovery, innovation, and education. Others, however, are likely to the great class of 2024. It is now my great pleasure to welcome this year's commencement speaker, Jensen Huang. As we walked across campus with Jensen, I had an experience that must have been similar to anyone that might have walked across Memphis with Elvis. Jensen, as I think you all know, Jensen is the founder, president, and chief executive officer of this small outfit called NVIDIA, a pioneer in accelerated computing technology and one of the most valuable companies in the world. Named the world's best CEO by Fortune magazine, The Economist, and Brand Finance, Jensen and his collaborators built NVIDIA from the ground up to take advantage of growing demand for 3D graphics and other visualization technologies. NVIDIA now is clearly the world leader as a maker of chips tailored for artificial intelligence applications. Jensen was born in Taiwan and spent part of his childhood in Thailand. When he was 9 years old, he and his brother came to the U.S., to Tacoma, Washington, to live with his uncle. Reuniting with his parents as a teenager, he excelled in high school. He graduated at the age of 16, and all the while was also a nationally ranked table tennis player.
If you're over 50 in the U.S., do not enroll in Medicare until you watch this video. New Medicare benefits were just announced in the U.S. that have recently stunned the industry with additional new immediate benefits that every senior should have. No medical or age restrictions. It's an absolute must for every senior who wants coverage beyond Medicare Parts A and B. You are entitled to a 100% free call this month to review your benefits. In this call, you might be shocked to discover all the additional benefits you could qualify for, as there are new alternatives that may offer a lot more than what you are currently getting. So don't miss out. This is how you take advantage of your one free phone call. Just tap the Learn More button below. Answer 2 basic questions, then find out what additional benefits you might be eligible for. It is that simple. But you must do this now, as the deadline is quickly approaching. Tap the blue button under this video now to learn more. Thousands of seniors in the U.S. are missing out on these additional benefits, because if you don't call and claim these incredible benefits, you will not receive them. There's only one way to ensure that you are getting all the benefits you deserve. You must call and find out. So don't wait. These additional benefits could really make a difference. Tap on the Learn More button below before it's too late.
So many people think sunspots are from the sun. In fact, they have nothing to do with the sun, and I'm going to tell you the simple way to avoid them. Sunspots have to do with mixing sugar, protein, and heat. Have you ever had a charred burger? Char comes from the combination of the sugar in the meat, yes, there are sugars in meat, and the protein in the meat heating up. The result of these 2 molecules binding together through heat is one of the strongest chemical bonds that's ever been described. It's called the Maillard reaction. As human beings, we have protein, we have sugar, and we make heat. So 24 hours a day, we're making charred bits in us. And those charred bits appear on your skin as sunspots. Vanity aside, believe me, you don't want them. If they're showing up, it can mean you're actually aging dramatically quickly, not only on your skin, but also in your brain and your heart. I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon, and a version of sunspots shows up in your heart when we
He received his undergraduate degree in electrical engineering from Oregon State University and worked for LSI Logic and Advanced Micro Devices during the early part of his career. He earned a master's degree in electrical engineering from Stanford University the year before he launched NVIDIA 31 years ago. Jensen has been featured as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world, and not too many years ago was elected to the National Academy of Engineering. He has received many awards, including being the recipient of the Robert Noyce Award of the Semiconductor Industry Association, the IEEE Founders Award, the Morris Chang Exemplary Leadership Award, and numerous honorary doctorates from universities in both the U.S. and overseas. Jensen, we are extremely appreciative of your coming today, and so on behalf of the whole Caltech family, I really want to thank you for that. But I want to especially thank you for the astronomers in our community. As those that follow NVIDIA closely know, they have a tradition of naming each of their increasingly powerful generations of chips after famous scientists. Next year, as its next generation of chips emerge, they will be named after Vera Rubin, one of the remarkable women astronomers who transformed our understanding of the universe. So we are very appreciative of that. It is a tremendous privilege to have him with us today, so please join me in welcoming Jensen.
It really makes me cringe listening to all that. Thank you for that kind introduction, but I hate hearing about myself. And just as a show, well, maybe if you could just applaud. How many of you know who NVIDIA is? And how many of you know what a GPU is? Okay, good. I don't have to change my speech. Ladies and gentlemen, President Rosenbaum, esteemed faculty members, distinguished guests, proud parents, and above all, the 2024 graduating class of Caltech. This is a really happy day for you guys. You gotta look more excited. You know you're graduating from Caltech. This is the school of the great Richard Feynman, Linus Pauling, and someone who's very influential to me and our industry, Carver Mead. Yeah, this is a very big deal. Today is a day of immense pride and joy. It is a dream come true for all of you, but not just for you, because your parents and families have made countless sacrifices to see you reach this milestone. So let's take this moment and congratulate them, thank them, and let them know you love them. You don't want to forget that because you don't know how long you're going to be living at home. You want to be super grateful today. As a proud parent, I really loved it when my kids didn't move out. And it was great to see them every day. But now they've moved out, it makes me sad. So hopefully you guys get to spend some time with your parents. Your journey here is a testament of your character, your determination, willingness to make sacrifices for your dreams. And you should be proud. The ability to make sacrifices, endure pain and suffering. You will need these qualities in life. You and I share some things in common. First, both chief scientists of NVIDIA were from Caltech. And one of the reasons why I'm giving this speech today is because I'm recruiting. And so I want to tell you that NVIDIA is a really great company. I'm a very nice boss, universally loved. Come work at NVIDIA. You and I share a passion for science and engineering. And although we're separated by about 40 years, we are both at the peaks of our career. For all of you who've been paying attention to NVIDIA and myself, you know what I mean. It's just that in your case, you'll have many, many more peaks to go. I just hope that today is not my peak, not the peak. And so I'm working as hard as ever to make sure that I have many more peaks ahead. Last year, I was honored to give the commencement address at Taiwan University. And I shared several stories about NVIDIA's journey and the lessons that we learned that might be valuable for graduates. I have to admit that I don't love giving advice, especially to other people's children. And so my advice today will largely be disguised in some stories that I've enjoyed and some life experiences that I've enjoyed. I'm the longest running tech CEO in the world today, I believe. And
he stated that he was cleaning his rifle and it accidentally just went off.
I'd do that. Bit of a glass in my eyes, to be honest. He's brought shame upon my family tree.
So they took 2 distress calls from the Titanic.
Over the course of 31 years, I managed not to go out of business, not get bored, and not get fired. And so I have the great privilege of enjoying a lot of life's experiences, starting from creating NVIDIA from nothing to what it is today. And so I spoke about the long road of creating CUDA, a programming model, the programming model that we dedicated over 20 years to invent, and that is revolutionizing computing today. I spoke about a very quite public, canceled Sega game console project we worked on, and where intellectual honesty, something that I know Richard Feynman cares very deeply about and spoke quite often about, where intellectual honesty and humility saved our company, and how a retreat, a strategic retreat, was one of our best strategies. All of these are counterintuitive lessons that I spoke about at the commencement. But I encouraged the graduates to engage with AI, the most consequential technology of our time. And I'll speak a little bit more about that later, but all of you know about AI. It's hard not to be immersed in it and surrounded by it, and a great deal of discussion about it. And of course, I hope that all of you are using it and playing with it with surprising results, and some magical, some disappointing, and some surprising. But you have to enjoy it, you have to engage it, because it's advancing so quickly. It is the only technology that I've known that is advancing on multiple exponentials at the same time. And so the technology is changing very, very quickly. So I advised the students at the Taiwan University to run, don't walk, and engage the AI revolution. And yet 1 year later, it's incredible how much has changed. And so today, what I wanted to do is share with you my perspective, from my vantage point, of some of the important things that are happening that you're graduating into. And these are extraordinary things that are happening that you should have an intuitive understanding for, because it's going to matter to you, it's going to matter to the industry, and hopefully you take advantage of the opportunity ahead of you. The computer industry is transforming from its foundations, literally from studs. Everything is changing from studs on up, and across every layer, and soon every industry will also be transformed. And the reason for that is quite obvious, because computers today are the single most important instrument of knowledge, and it's foundational to every single industry and every field of science. If we are transforming the computer so profoundly, it will, of course, have implications in every industry, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. And as you enter industry, it's important you know what's happening. Modern computing traces back to the IBM System 360. That was the architecture manual that I learned from. It's an architecture manual that you don't need to learn from. A lot better documentation and better descriptions of computers and architecture has been presented since. But the System 360 was incredibly important at its time, and in fact, the basic ideas of the System 360, the architecture of it, the principled ideas and architecture and strategy of the System 360 are still governing the computer industry today. And it was introduced a year after my birth. In the 80s, I was among the first generation of VLSI engineers who learned to design chips from Mead and Conway's landmark textbook. And I'm not sure if it's still being taught here. It should be, in the introduction of VLSI systems. Based on Carver Mead's pioneering work here at Caltech on chip design methodologies and textbook that revolutionized IC design. And it enabled our generation to design supergiant chips and ultimately the CPU. The CPU led to exponential growth in computing. The performance, the incredible technology advances, that's called Moore's Law, fueled the information technology revolution. The industrial revolution that we are part of, that my generation was part of, saw the mass production of something the world had never seen before. The mass production of something that was invisible, easy to copy, the mass production of software. And it led to a $3 trillion industry. When I sat where you sat, the IT industry was minuscule. And the concept that you could make money selling software was a fantasy. And yet today, it's one of the most important commodities, most important technologies and product creations that our industry produces. However, the limits of Dennard scaling, of transistor scaling, and instruction-level parallelism have slowed CPU performance. And the slowed CPU performance gains is happening at a time when computing demand continues to grow exponentially. This exponentially growing gap between demand of computing and the capabilities of computers, if not addressed, computing energy consumption and cost, inflation, would eventually stifle every industry. We see very clear signs of computing inflation as we speak. And after 2 decades of advancing NVIDIA's CUDA, NVIDIA's accelerated computing offers a path forward. That's the reason why I'm here. Because finally the industry realized of the incredible effectiveness of accelerated computing at precisely the time that we're witnessing computing inflation after several decades. By offloading time-consuming algorithms to a GPU that specializes in parallel processing, we routinely achieve 10, 100, sometimes 1,000-fold speed-ups, saving money, cost, and energy. We now accelerate application domains from computer graphics, ray tracing, of course, to gene sequencing, scientific computing, astronomy, quantum circuit simulations, SQL data processing, and even pandas data science. Accelerated computing has reached a tipping point. That is our first great contribution to the computer industry, our first great contribution to society, accelerated computing. It now gives us a path forward for sustainable computing where cost will continue to decline as computing requirement continues to grow.
Watch what 3 surprising foods do to your waistline.
Throw the white bread away. If it's white, put it out of sight. 1 piece of white bread has 4 teaspoons of sugar. Yeah, 4.
100-fold of anything in time or cost or energy savings that accelerated computing opened surely would trigger a new development somewhere else. We just didn't know what it was until deep learning came to our consciousness. A whole new world of computing emerged. Jeff Hinton, Alice Krzyzewski, and Ilya Sutskever used NVIDIA CUDA GPUs to train AlexNet and shocked the computer vision community by winning the 2012 ImageNet Challenge. This was the big moment, the big bang of deep learning, a pivotal moment that marked the beginning of the AI revolution. Our decisions after AlexNet transformed our company is something that's worth taking note of. Our decisions after AlexNet transformed our company and likely everything else. We saw the potential of deep learning and believed, just believed through principled thinking, believed through our own analysis of the scalability of deep learning. We believed the approach could learn other valuable functions, that maybe deep learning is a universal function learner. And how many problems are difficult or impossible to express using fundamental first principles. And so when we saw this, we thought this is a technology we really have to pay attention to because its limits are potentially only limited by model and data scale. However, there were challenges at the time. This is 2012, shortly after 2012. How could we explore the limits of deep learning without having to build these massive GPU clusters? At the time, we were a rather small company. Building these massive GPU clusters could cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And if we didn't, though, there was no assurance that it would be effective if we scaled. However, no one knew how far deep learning could scale, and if we didn't build it, we'd never know. This is one of those, if you build it, will they come? Our logic is if we don't build it, they can't come. And so we dedicated ourselves based on our first principled beliefs and our analysis, and we got ourselves to the point where we believed this was going to be so effective, and when the company believes something, we should go act on it. So we dove deep into deep learning, and over the next decade, systematically reinvented everything. We reinvented every computing layer, starting with the GPU itself. The invention of the modern GPU, which is very different than the GPU of the past that we invented in the first place. And we went on to invent just about every other aspect of computing, the interconnects, the systems, the networking, and of course, software. We invested billions. We invested billions into the unknown. Thousands of engineers for a decade worked on deep learning and advancing and scaling deep learning without really knowing how far we could really take the technology. We invested billions. And we designed and built supercomputers to explore the limits of learning, of deep learning and AI. Then in 2016, we announced DGX-1, our first AI supercomputer, and I delivered the first one to a startup in San Francisco, a startup nobody knew anything about, a group of friends of mine who were working on artificial intelligence, a company called OpenAI. In 2022, 10 years after AlexNet, and about a million-fold increase in computing later, a million-fold. If you could just imagine, what would it be like if your laptop was a million-fold more capable? A million-fold later, OpenAI launched ChatGPT, and AI went mainstream. During this decade, NVIDIA transformed ourselves from a graphics company that many of you probably first knew us as, that builds GPUs, to now an AI company that builds massive data center scale supercomputers. We transformed our company completely. We also transformed computing completely. The fundamental way of doing computing today has been radically changed. The computing stack now uses GPU to process large language models that are trained on supercomputers, rather than CPUs that are processing instructions written by programmers. We are now creating software that no humans can write. We are now creating software that does things that no humans can imagine even just 10 years ago. Computers are now intention-driven rather than instruction-driven. Tell a computer what you want, and it will figure it out. It will figure out how. And like humans, AI applications will understand the mission, reason, plan, and orchestrate a team of large language models to perform tasks. Future applications will do and perform very similar to the way we do things. Assemble teams of experts, use tools, reason and plan, and execute our mission. Software and what software can do has been completely changed. Even our industry, as it's being changed and transformed, created yet another industry, an industry the world's never seen before. An industry is forming right in front of our eyes. AI's input and output are tokens. For all the engineers in the room, you know what I mean. These are floating point numbers that embed intelligence. Companies are now building a new type of data center that didn't exist before, that specialize in producing intelligence tokens. Essentially, AI factories. Like AC generators that Nikola Tesla invented of the past industrial revolution, we now have AI token generators, and they will be the factories of a new industrial revolution. There's large industries producing energy, electricity. We now have a large industry producing something invisible called software. In the future, in the very near future, we'll have industries that are producing, manufacturing intelligence, tokens, AI generators. A new computing model has emerged, and a new industry has emerged, all because we reasoned from first principles, formed our belief about the future, and we acted on them. The next wave of AI is robotics, where AI, in addition to a language model, also has a physical world model. We work with hundreds of companies building robots, robotic vehicles, pick-and-place arms, humanoid robots, and even entire gigantic warehouses that are robotic. But unlike our AI factory strategy and our experience there, which was really formed through reasoning and deliberate action, our robotics journey resulted from a series of setbacks. As you know, NVIDIA invented the GPU. This was before we invented AI factories. Our first great contribution to the computer industry was reinventing computer graphics through programmable shaders. We invented the GPU and programmable shading in 2000. We wanted to integrate GPUs into every computer. And so we started to combine our GPUs with motherboard chips. And we launched a fabulous integrated graphics chip at the time for AMD CPUs. Our chipset business was an instant success.
If you've stopped driving at night because of vision problems, try this simple ice hack with water before bed and watch your vision go from this.
I think it went from $0 to $1 billion practically overnight. But then all of a sudden, AMD wanted to control all of the technology in the PC, and we wanted to stay independent, so they purchased ATI and no longer needed us. We turned to Intel. That probably wasn't a great idea, but we turned to Intel and negotiated a license to connect to Intel CPUs. Apple was excited about what we were building and asked us to work on a new computer with them, which became the first MacBook Air. Well, Intel saw what happened and decided they didn't want us to do that anymore. And so they terminated our agreement. Well, we pivoted again. And this time, we went and licensed ARM. And we built a low-power SoC, a mobile SoC, the world's first SoC that was essentially a computer, a full operating computer, and it was incredible. Our chip excited Google, and they asked us to work on a new device, which turned out to have been the Android mobile device. Well, Qualcomm decided they didn't want us to do that. And so they didn't want us to connect to their modems, and it's hard to build a mobile device without being connected to a modem. And there were no other LTE modem companies. So we had to exit the mobile device market. Well, this happened practically on a year rhythm. And we would build something, it would be incredibly successful, generate enormous amounts of excitement, and then 1 year later, we were kicked out of those markets. Well, with no more markets to turn to, we decided to build something where we are sure there are no customers. Because one of the things you can definitely guarantee is where there are no customers, there are also no competitors. And nobody cares about you. And so we chose a market with no customers, a $0 billion market, and then it was robotics. We built the world's first robotics computer, processing an algorithm nobody understood at the time called deep learning. This is over 10 years ago now. 10 years later, I can't be happier with what we've built and the opportunity to create the next wave of AI. More importantly, we developed agility and a culture of resilience. One setback after another, we shook it off and skated to the next opportunity. Each time, we gained skills and strengthened our character. We strengthened our corporate character. Our company is really hard to distract and really hard to discourage, and no setback that comes our way doesn't look like an opportunity these days. Ironically, the robotics computer that we build today doesn't even need graphics, which is why our journey started in the first place. So where we are today tells us something and teaches us something. The world is uncertain, as Richard Feynman would say, and the world can be unfair and deal you with tough cards. Swiftly shake it off. You've apparently been paying too much attention to your books. Swiftly shake it off. Come on, that's pretty clever. I made myself laugh. There's another opportunity out there, or create one. Let me tell you one more story. I used to work from one of our international sites for 1 month each summer. When our kids were in their teens, we spent a summer in Japan. Over a weekend, we visited Kyoto and the Silver Temple. If you haven't had a chance to go, you must. It's renowned for its exquisite moss garden. The day we visited was quintessential Kyoto summer day. Suffocatingly hot and humid, sticky. Heat is radiating from the ground. The air was thick, still. Along with the other tourists, we wandered through the meticulously groomed moss garden. And I noticed the lone gardener. Now remember, the moss garden, this is the Silver Temple. The moss garden is gigantic. It's about the size of this courtyard. And it has the largest collection of just about apparently every species of moss in the world. And just exquisitely maintained. I noticed the lone gardener squatting, carefully picking at the moss with a bamboo tweezer and putting it in the bamboo basket. And it's a bamboo tweezer, you know, and it's just this one gardener. And the basket looked empty. Well, for a moment there, I thought he was picking imaginary moss into a pile of imaginary dead moss. And so I walked up to him and I said, "What are you doing?" And in his English, he said, "I'm picking dead moss. I'm taking care of my garden." And I said, "But your garden is so big."
It's a surprising reason people were healthier in the 70s. Chuck and I were both around in the 70s.
Yeah.
People just looked healthier back then. If you look at a photo of people at the beach in the 1970s and you compare it to today, the difference is shocking.
So what happened?
In 1974, Kellogg's came up with the ad campaign. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It was to sell more cereal, so sugar consumption went up. Fiber started disappearing from our food to make it last longer on the shelves, and so we got hungry faster. And then we ate more because we didn't feel full. Fast forward to today, and it's no surprise we look like this.
So you're in amazing shape. What's your secret?
Well, my husband's discovered something that's been a game changer. I'm in my 60s, and I've never felt better. I mean, look at my husband.
I'm 84.
He still works on our ranch, and he rides horses. He plays with the grandkids. He even hits the punching bag.
And he responded, "I have cared for my garden for 25 years. I have plenty of time." Well, that was one of the most profound learnings in my life, and it really taught me something. This gardener has dedicated himself to his craft and doing his life's work. And when you do that, you have plenty of time. I begin each morning. I do every single morning exactly the same way. I begin each morning by doing my highest priority work first. I have a very clear priority list, and I start from the highest priority work first. Before I even get to work, my day is already a success. I've already completed my most important work and can dedicate my day to helping others. And when people apologize for interrupting me, I always say, I have plenty of time. And I do. Graduates of the class of 2024, I can hardly imagine anyone more prepared for the future than you. You dedicated yourself, you worked hard, you earned a world-class education from one of the most prestigious schools in the world. And as you commence into the next stage, take my learnings, and hopefully they'll help you along the way. I hope you believe in something unconventional, something unexplored. But let it be informed and let it be reasoned. Then dedicate yourself to making it happen. You may find your GPU. You may find your CUDA. You may find your generative AI. You may find your NVIDIA. I hope you will see setbacks as new opportunities. Your pain and suffering will strengthen your character, your resilience and agility, and they are the ultimate superpowers. Of all of the things that I value most about my abilities, intelligence is not top of that list. My ability to endure pain and suffering, my ability to work on something for a very, very long period of time, my ability to handle setbacks and see the opportunity just around the corner, I consider to be my superpowers. And I hope they're yours. And I hope you find a craft.
Hello, Mark Barden here from Sandy Hook Promise. On December 14th, 2012, my 7-year-old son, Daniel, was shot to death in his first grade classroom in Sandy Hook Elementary School. The shooter carried a semi-automatic rifle and killed 26 people in about 4 minutes.
I hope you find a craft. It's not important to decide on day one. It's not even important to decide anytime soon. But I hope you do find a craft that you want to dedicate your lifetime to perfecting, to hone the skills of, and let it be your life's work. And then lastly, prioritize your life. There's so many things going on. There's so many things to do. But prioritize your life, and you will have plenty of time to do the important things. Congratulations, class of 2024. Go get them.
Jensen, thank you so much on behalf of the entire Caltech community. You really are the Elvis of computers, and I might say the envy of your peers in the tech sector. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Caltech Glee Club for a choral selection.